called him again today and left him a message. He did move some stuff around there, but it looks like he got the weeds out of the back, but he still got stuff there. And then who complained about it? No,
Nothing you can do about that, is
she
there?
wanted me to.
Oh, for the love
I
of
said,
God.
okay.
They're not violent creatures.
Oh,
It'll move on.
Oh, I forgot to send you a packet, didn't I? Well, he not. No, did you find it on the website?
No, I just got my items, so I'm
I
fine.
think I sent one to the fire chief, didn't I? Yeah. Well, see how you rate, Kyle? I'll add you to my list.
I was on it last time.
I know you were, but you know, when you get to be, I'm not into the swing of it all quite yet. I'm getting there again.
It's 6:30. We'll call the City of Mayor regular city council meeting for Monday, June 27th, 2022 to order. If we could start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. All right. Do we have any additions to the agenda tonight? Hearing none, I'll look for a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. We'll open up for public comments. If there's anyone who would like to discuss anything that is not on the agenda, please come forward. Seeing no one, will close public comments. We'll move to consent agenda. Is there anything on the consent agenda that needs to be pulled for further discussion? Hearing none, I'll look for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. That will take us to 6A1, David Drown Associates, City Administrator Search.
Good evening, council members, mayor and staff. Thank you. It's been a while since I was last here, so the good news to report is that we had a good number of applicants for your city administrator position. We had a total of 19 applicants for that, which I thought we did very well. Obviously, some of those candidates, were kind of stretching when they applied. They didn't have the background that we were looking for, but we did have a number of good applicants. And so going through that process, since we last talked, what I did is I did take a look at those 19 candidates. I reviewed them and I elected to move 13 forward. So there were 6 candidates that I didn't believe would be qualified for what you're looking for in terms of a city administrator. Some of these individuals did not have a background in government. And I felt that that was important for the position of city administrator. So 13 candidates were asked to go to the next step of being a semifinalist. Those individuals went and did a video interview as well as a personality assessment. And during that time, we did have 2 individuals that did not complete the assigned homework by the due date. And so those 2 dropped out. And then we did have a 3rd candidate who I was quite excited about, who did withdraw his application for personal reasons. I reached out to this individual and really I inquired and asked if there's anything we could do to keep them in the applicant pool. Unfortunately, this individual said it was personal reasons, didn't disclose, and did continue. So we are now looking at a total of 10 applicants. You have received information on those candidates, the video interview, the personality assessment, their resume, and a copy of their cover letter. So what we're going to do here tonight is going to talk about those individuals. We're not going to use names because that's still confidential information. We'll refer to candidates by numbers, and then at the conclusion of tonight's meeting, the names of the individuals who you are inviting in for an interview will become public. And so what our office will do is we'll put together a short bio of each of those finalists, and then we'll provide that to Luann, and then you as a council can direct how that gets shared with the local media and other requests that may come in. So with that said, the first thing that I would like us to do is to start talking a little bit about the 10 candidates and try and kind of weed that down to 5 to 6 candidates. You may say, why are we looking at 5 to 6 candidates? And typically, we've got a time gap between now and July 20th. And a lot of these individuals may have applications out for other positions. And for various reasons, individuals may drop out. So that's where, I would hope that we could come for an interview on July 20th. So what we have found works out very well is to just simply go around the table and just, if you would, please indicate the top 3 or 4 candidates on your list. I've got a little sheet here. I'll be keeping track of what everybody's preferences are, and then we can certainly identify those that are consistently rated at the top. Those individuals for sure we would like to invite in. And then if there are any other individuals, we can have discussion again using numbers and not names. We can talk a little bit further about each candidate. So anybody like to start us off?
Perfect. You want top 3?
Yes, please.
I have 218.
Okay.
I have 178.
I'm sorry, 178. Okay. Thank you.
I have 218, 2110.
Okay.
And Peggy's were 219.
Okay.
Just a minute.
We've got plenty of time, Larry. No rush. It's a big decision, I know.
326.
Okay. Okay, so basically what we're looking at is we had, for candidate number 1, we had 4 votes For candidate number 2, we had 4 votes. For candidate number 3, we had 1 vote. We did not have any votes for candidates 4 or 5. For candidate 6 and 7, we had 1 vote each. For candidate 8, we had 3 votes. For candidates 9 and 10, we had 1 vote. So I think there's probably agreement that we would invite candidates 1, 2, and 8 for an interview. Is there agreement from the council on that? Those were the candidates who received 3 or 4 votes from the group.
Numbers again?
1, 2, and 8.
I'm good with those 3.
I am also.
Are you looking for a couple more or I'm good with those 3 for sure.
Yes, so that's kind of a starting point to say, for sure, these 3, and then I guess I would invite the council to have discussion about, there were 5 candidates that received a single vote, so we can have some discussion. I think it would be worthwhile to have more than 3 candidates.
Right.
Mhm.
Thinking 5 or 6.
Correct, yes.
I know 9 was on there. Once I had 9 as my 4th. I would be comfortable with 9.
Do we just want to go around the table, and do you want to tell me your 4th and your 5th candidate? You may not, I'm not sure if everybody has those numbers. I know
No,
I asked for
needed
just the top
3.
3.
The
So,
numbers are on the tops of those resumes.
No, I know. I only picked 3. And
Oh,
yeah,
now it's,
Mine are 6 and 9.
I'd be open to bringing in 9.
And 9.
I'm hearing some support for candidate number 9.
I think you got 3 of us so far.
Okay. Okay. So that brings us up to 4. The other candidates that received a vote are 3, 6, 7, and 10.
I'm fine with 10 also.
I would be good with 10. That was my 3rd choice.
Are you good with 10? Yeah. All right, let's try to get one more.
6?
So you saying number 6?
No,
Or are you saying
I'm just
6?
saying 6 candidates you're saying.
Yes. If the council does want, you can go with 5, 6. It's really up to you. Like I said, some of these candidates have other applications out there,
Oh, I get it.
and it's a period of time before we actually do the interviews.
Well, then it would be,
I like 6.
like number 6?
I would be okay with 6. little struggle on the videos, I thought, but it might just be
Right.
What about,
nerves of it and
Yeah.
it just,
I don't want to,
just seemed a little,
what
seemed to
about,
struggle with a lot of the questions, but it just might have been because of what it was. So I'm okay. I'm okay as a 6 to bring 6.
what about 7?
I didn't, I wasn't interested in 7.
I wasn't either, but I would be okay with it for the
Yeah.
same reasons.
Maybe, should we just, can we do both?
I think that's going to be a little
We don't want
much.
too many
much.
either. We don't want too many either.
It gets to be a long day
Okay.
because you basically, and this is yet to be determined, but typically what we do is the council spends an hour with each candidate. And then at the end of that time period, then you sit down and deliberate and have discussions about and make your choice. So it does kind of get to be a long day.
I mean, I like 5, but can you have like an alternate if one drops out in between now and then?
Sure. And that's exactly how I would explain it to them is that, you know, there's just a limited number, you know, as we get closer to that date. Because for a lot of candidates, you know, they've applied, they've done the video interview, the assessment. Some of them, it doesn't really become real until they have to take time to come in for an interview. And some people do, you know, further evaluate it and say, you know what, now is just not a good time. You know, so within a few days of me calling and notifying them, typically I do hear back from individuals if they're not going to proceed.
On closer experience, what we're looking for, and educational background.
That's exactly where I stand on those two also, just based on experience and education.
6 has no management experience.
Did you get numbers?
I do.
Did you
Yeah.
put yours in? Okay.
No, I didn't put mine in,
Oh, you
but
did.
I said 2, 8, and 1, which were your top 3. I was just quiet. I had 10 questionable, no, and 5 questionable as maybes.
I'd be okay with 6.
5 I thought was, yeah.
Wasn't sure about 5. I questioned that.
I'd be okay with 6.
6 as an alternate
So would you do an alternate? Is that
Or
okay
is
to
that-
do? Is that,
or not?
I mean, do you call them up and say, hey, if someone drops, you're in, save the date? Is that even
Yeah.
fair? Is that typical, common?
You know, I have done that before with some other ones. You know, I've had some interesting recruitments recently where, you know, we've had 6 individuals and within a week of individuals being notified, 3 of them dropped out. So, you know, and what I stress to the candidates is that it doesn't really matter how you get in there and get an interview. What matters is how you perform once you're on the job. And, you know,
I'm just looking at time constraints and just the amount of information to try to manage 6 candidates. I was really comfortable at 5. That's just
Yeah,
me
maybe 5's
personally.
the right number then. Maybe 5 is.
No, and if we're kind of struggling to get that 6th one, is it really? Because I mean, we can always kind of go back to that pool if all of a sudden you only have 3 and 2 drop out, right? I mean, it's not like you can't reach out to them again to say that
Yeah.
we'd like to move you forward, right?
yes, true. I mean, you know, and you're exactly right. I could, you know, we've got 6 selected here. I could just mention to the 6th one, you know, you're very close. You know, if anything changes, I'll be in touch with you, you know, if possible. And if you're willing, please keep that July 20th date open. And then obviously, you know, as we get closer, I'll certainly.
The other thing is, once he calls these 5, maybe one of these 5 are going to drop out.
And that's what I-
And then number 6 will just, that'll be the last call he'll probably make.
Yeah, and I would, yeah.
And then you've got your 5 candidates. It just gives him flexibility to be able to get 5 candidates in.
I would say number 6 would be the alternate, number 6.
Yes, I would.
Okay.
And if you call the 5 and all 5 get, then I would say 6 is out. 6 is in if one of the 5 say, no, I'm withdrawing.
Okay, so you're saying you'd like to have a
Alternate.
decision tonight, or should I tell number 6 that, if I reach out to all 5 of them, they say, wonderful, I'm excited, I'm interested, and then I get a call in, say, a week from now when someone says, I've been thinking more about it, should I tell candidate number 6 that you're still a possibility?
Can you tell them nothing for 2 weeks?
Well, they know the schedule. They're probably
Yeah.
looking for.
Yeah.
Oh.
And-
They probably want to know where we're at.
Mhm.
And if not watching tonight even.
Right.
I guess I'll look to you to see what's if it's common and seems right to let 6 know that as an alternate, and if someone, things may change, if you can wordsmith that good with that candidate, I'm okay with that. And give you, and once we make the motion, we'll make the motion, give you that flexibility to add that one in if someone does drop out. So you can just do it.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. That sounds
Yeah.
great.
Does that seem fair? I mean, I don't want to disrespect any of the candidates either.
Right.
No, I don't think you are by any means. I think you're just saying that, it's up to the candidates that we have, and we selected these 5. However, should one drop off, we would be willing to sit down and talk with you, and you may be surprised. I mean, some candidates may, in a video interview, like you were saying, be accustomed to talking into a computer and not having a person to communicate with. And so they may not initially appear well, but when you get them into an interview, that may be a whole different side of them, and their knowledge of local government just really comes out. So, I don't think you can,
All right.
offend anybody by.
Seems okay with that. Then I'll look for a motion.
So how many do we have right now?
We have 5, 1, 2, 8, 9, and 10. Is that correct, Pat?
Yes.
1, 2, 8, 9, 10, and 6 is an alternate.
Okay.
All right, I'll look for a motion then to move forward with candidates 1, 2, 8, 9, and 10 with number 6 as an alternate.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any further discussion?
I thought we had got some really nice candidates.
Mhm.
Lots of different backgrounds,
I think so, too.
experience, so I'm excited to bring them in.
A lot of different backgrounds, yes.
Mhm.
So the next step, I'll contact them tonight. I'll contact that 6 candidate and let them know that we'd like them to, be ready and prepared if that opportunity presents itself. But
Perhaps. 1 minute. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. Yes,
sorry.
go on.
So the next step then will be to reach out to the candidates and ask them to send me their references, provide me with a release so that we can look into their background, do a credit check. We'll also have them do kind of a mental aptitude, which will look into their logic and their reasoning. And then, that additional information will be provided to you when they come in for their interviews on July 20th. So that information will be provided a week ahead of time so that you can go through that information, and that'll help fine tune kind of where you're standing on ranks. And then also they'll have the opportunity to talk with them and ask questions. I will send out a list of questions that we typically use that, the council can tweak and change, revise, and we'll go from there. So the next item that I'd like to talk about is just what you have envisioned for that interview day. There's a lot of different options. Some of those options include having staff sit down with the candidates. Typically, the council does an hour interview. Typically with staff, it's about a half an hour interview that they have with each candidate. Again, questions can be crafted by the staff, maybe specific to their areas of expertise. And then what they do is they provide input to you as the council. They'll just complete a form. They'll give some insights, make some comments about what they maybe liked or disliked about certain candidates, and then that will be made available to you prior to your deliberations. The one thing I will remind people is that the council will have more confidential information. The staff will be provided with a copy of the resume and the cover letter so that they have the general background of the candidates, but not the more detailed confidential information. And it is ultimately the council that makes the decision. They certainly can benefit from having some insight from the staff. And that's kind of the intended purpose, is to, give staff some ownership in this decision. It's a big decision for the city, and maybe have some technical expertise asking questions of these candidates.
Okay, so for the July 20th, what time are we thinking these like council interviews would start, just so that everybody can plan accordingly with their day job?
So typically it's a full day. Typically the staff will meet with the candidates in the morning, and then simultaneously, maybe around 11 o'clock, 10 or 11 o'clock is when the council starts meeting with candidates.
Yeah.
So
Boss ain't gonna like
is
that.
that going to pose a problem?
We can't shift that either. I mean, we could.
I don't remember what we
afternoon,
did.
correct? I mean,
Are you going to have staff meet with them?
with
I think
the
we did
candidates.
last time.
Yeah. I
And we're
think
so small, I think it's important that,
I think so. These, I guess 5, if everyone wants to do it, partake. I would say we have all staff, the fire chief.
because see then when did we do, I really like that little meet and greet thing. When was that? Was that like not on this day?
I'm
I don't remember what we
I
did.
thought it was the same day.
Everything was the same.
Yeah, I thought
was
we had
like a lunch.
staff met, and then we kind of met over lunch and kind of had a box lunch or. Excuse me. Box lunches, and then they just went around and met with some members from the community. I think it worked well. And
Yeah,
then council did in the afternoon.
So council interviews would start like at 1 o'clock?
Well, council, if we're going hour, you said, so we're going 5 hours.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so I would,
And we need 3 hours for for staff. So there we got 8 hours.
yeah, so what we would do is we would probably run them concurrently with one another. We'd have, some individuals who come in and maybe their first meeting is with the council, but then later in the day they meet with staff. But the staff would start out earlier in the morning, and then the council would kind of start a little bit later and would probably go into the evening with deliberations and discussion.
I mean, does it have to be an hour long? I mean, if you get what you need from the candidate, I mean,
You don't know when the next one's prepared,
right.
is there, but I'm almost thinking an hour might be on the long. I think a half hour is too short for council. An hour was probably, I'm guessing it's gonna be more in the 45-minute range, but
But it gives you a little bit of time between each candidate too,
Yeah.
to think
talk.
about them, to make your notes,
right.
to,
I think
just
we
to
did
kind of
maybe-
digest what they've said.
45 minutes, and then we had 15 minutes in between where we could write our notes. Because we decide that night, don't we?
Correct. I am working with the city, which is doing it on 2 separate nights and not starting until later in the evening, until 4 o'clock. I mean, whatever best suits you as the council and staff and works best. So,
Well, staff, we can do in the morning for sure.
Right.
Mhm.
That's not a concern. If that works for Andy's schedule, if he wants to partake in it. Yeah, I think he has a little flexibility, but. Sure. And do we want to do the community thing again? Do we want to reach out to community members or some of our engineering's, our engineer or our attorney if they wanted to be there, or
Just for instance, what happens, like, say I can't get off work?
we'll do yours later in the day then.
Oh my. Okay, that's a long day for
Oh,
those
no,
candidates.
we
No,
can't do
you
yours.
can't.
We can't do yours later in the day. I see what you're saying.
Because it's a full council interview.
Correct. And it's an open,
Right.
open meeting. And
So maybe do you want to do it over 2 days, do the 20th and the 21st and do few candidates? Like start at 4 o'clock. The only problem with that, I think, is you forget about the first ones you interviewed. When you have that break like that, that's why you kind of want to do them all in one day.
We could do
Chad, what time do you get off?
that.
I have a lunch break and then I work till 4.
So what about if we invited the community to do a meet and greet after 4, and at least Chad would get to meet everybody with whoever we don't invite, with like all of our committees that we have. And whoever else shows up that would like to meet the potential candidates. At least Chad
I'm not
would,
saying I
if he
can't.
does miss,
I
he would at
don't
least
know.
get to ask them questions. We'll
guess-
still be here.
I guess how I see the day playing out, correct me if I'm wrong, is at 10 o'clock in the morning, the candidates would come and start meeting with staff. And then do a lunch meet and greet like you did at like noon to 1. 1 o'clock would be the first interview for the city council until 6 PM would be your last interview, because 5 hours, so you'll be done by 7. Then at 7 o'clock, you can do your deliberations, make your decision, and you're done. To keep it all in one day. You want to, if you want to split it,
Keep it one. I think one day is best.
yeah, but if you want to split it up, then you have to go start at 4 o'clock for part and 4 for the next, and that's what you're going to have to do. But I guess that's how I would see it playing out. And I don't know, Pat, you've done it more than I have,
you know, things have
That's why I
changed
really
with the
was-
whole COVID.
right?
So
5.
there hasn't necessarily been the meet and greets happening as of recently, but, it's certainly an option. I think some of the things that we've had other communities do is, they'll have the candidates hop on a bus and they'll just, drive around the community and point out different assets that the community has. They'll make a presentation, maybe, the water department talks about their beautiful shop and, what's going on there. Or the fire department talks about their new station, something like that, just to kind of give the candidates a sense of what they're getting into. But the meet and greet, it's something that they can do. I don't know if you were thinking that candidates or the residents that would come to the meet and greet would then fill out a form and share input with you on the candidates. You could always,
I know we just had a discussion after, I believe, on it. I can't remember.
Okay.
We might not have time for the meet and
Yeah.
greet based on this, that staff's gonna need 2.5 hours. We're gonna need 5.
Yep.
We should have some sort of a meal there if we're catching something, give them a little break. But I like the idea of going around the community for an hour
Mhm.
versus, that might
Well, I
be-
don't think you need an hour.
No, well, if they go into some of them and Kyle goes through some of the wastewater treatment plant, where
Oh,
depending on how detailed in, we get it, but by the time you get into the new fire stations, show them that, then get back on the bus, then get to the next, it probably get.
so we'd have to rent a bus.
No. So how you could do it is you could just, if staff meet with them, I'd like to be part of the council interview process where I'd like to be, but I'd like to also be part of the staff. So I'm going to have to make me too. But if you had the staff do the meetings at 10 o'clock until say 1, because you're doing a half an hour, you have Kyle and Janelle driving around the community. We'd figure out something, or one of them, because they'd want to do an interview. When that person is done with the interview, then they get in with Kyle in the city truck, and Kyle takes them around the community and explains things. That's all he's got to do. And then you're done. Or Janelle, or whoever you want to have do it.
Right.
I don't know, can you drive a diesel? Of course.
And I can go along, I could be part of that too.
But you'll be doing interviews. So as you're doing your interviews at 1 o'clock, then the person that's done it by 2, then Kyle would take them around the community,
Oh, one at a time.
one at a time.
Yeah.
I've done it one at a time before, or they could do it before the interview too. So they would like at 12:30 or whatever, he could take them, and then they do their interview at 1 o'clock. He'd bring them back here for the interview.
or we have scheduled, from 12:30 to 1:30, kind of a lunch break type thing, where they do everybody, so you don't have basically staff time being taken up, given a bunch of individuals. There is a benefit to having the group. That way they all hear the same thing.
Yep, that's
Um,
true. Would Mayor Lutheran High have a van that they might let us use?
They might. I mean, one of the schools, we should be able to get a small bus for.
Right.
Can't we
Right.
just use the rescue?
Fire truck.
Fire truck ride.
There you go. Put the fire chief in charge.
Well, that we can figure that out. If that's
Yeah.
what we want to do, we can figure
Yep,
out how we're gonna
yep.
get them around.
Yep.
But we should be able to get a small bus.
Yep.
Or we could even contact Maryland tonight. They
Yep.
might be able to help us out, but-
Float.
A float, get a
Well,
tractor
then they
with
can
a
see the
wagon.
community and we can let the community members know.
Maybe I'll come back to the dump truck.
Decorate it.
Oh, Lord.
We can wave.
That's the full mayor experience right
Yeah.
So you're thinking you want to do, city staff will do interviews from like 10 to noon, let's say,
12:30 if.
or 12:30.
half hours, yeah.
And then from 12:30 to 1, they can have lunch. You want to give them lunch? And then at 1 o'clock, we'd give them a tour of the community before their interview? Because then if, so from 1 to 1:30, they do the tour and then you'd start the official interviews at 1:30 with the candidates.
That goes to 6:30 then.
Right,
Is it better to start an hour earlier?
like 9 o'clock with
Do an hour
staff.
It gets
earlier,
to
then
be a
do a
long-
tour, have
it gets
lunch
to
and then
be-
start with us?
Yeah, it gets to be a long day, and so I kind of hate to push it too far back just because
Staff.
You've heard a
is
lot of
it like myself by myself with them.
No, it would be
Oh,
a group.
As a group.
Group.
It'll be a group.
Group.
Yeah.
and how much time would you, I'd mentioned a half hour. It doesn't have to be a half an hour. It could be longer,
Minutes?
it can be less.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
can be smaller.
Yeah.
15,
Take a half
20
hour.
minutes,
General questions.
Okay.
couple of questions, okay?
Yeah, I feel like what staff would provide, we could figure out within that amount of time.
So 20
20 minutes?
20
minutes? Okay.
Okay. Let's cut some time.
And I think I heard the council 45 minutes, but then obviously there'd be a 15-minute gap in there for, in case somebody runs over. One of the things that we will be doing is I'll be in the meeting with the council and I'll know the questions. We'll have them pre-written. We'll be sticking to the script so everybody gets the same opportunity to respond. But then if they fall behind, I'll say, okay, we've got 10 minutes left and we have, 8 questions remaining. One of the important things is that we want to allow them time at the end to ask questions of you. That shows how much research they might have done into the city of Marion. So
45 or an hour is fine. I'm guessing most candidates will stay here, right? So if we get done early, we can always pull the next one in early. Right? I'm assuming they're going to be on site, most of them.
correct. Yeah, I would assume that most of them will come in and if we could kind of set up a waiting area.
They'll set up stuff.
Make sure we
We'll set up
have,
stuff in the
some
cafeteria.
snacks and refreshments.
Yeah.
If
Little stations
they're
that they gotta
staying so
work,
that they can,
Wi-Fi, little.
Mhm.
Yeah, we can do all that.
Are we gonna do lunch? Do you want to do lunch?
Yes.
I think we should.
Okay.
Yeah.
Box lunch or something,
Did you?
or
Okay.
we'll have to figure out where we want to get it from or cater it in from Agave or something.
Okay.
I kind of like Agave, just
Yeah.
a local, our
We'll use
local
one of the
restaurant.
We'll use that. We'll do that.
When you do talk to the candidate, we ask if there's any diet needs,
Okay.
restrictions that we need to be aware of.
Good idea.
And
So then that means staff will meet with them at 10. We'll be done by noon at 20 minutes each. If we do that. Is that what you're thinking? 20 minutes?
I was thinking we go earlier
So 9 to 11 then.
and then it will be done. And then we could do a tour, a lunch, and then we can start at 1
Okay?
for council.
So start at 9 o'clock with staff, be done by 11, then do the tour at 11? Is that what you're thinking? And then lunch?
Unless,
Okay.
unless we want to do the tour right away. Maybe we get them here and do the tour right away and
That's up to you. I'm just trying to get some order.
Well, maybe the tour right away, because then if they have questions about the city, they
Yeah.
can ask them in the interview.
so maybe a tour at 9.
Okay.
That shouldn't take more than an hour, right?
The one thing I will just mention is that some candidates may have for the drive-in, give me just a minute to look and see where all of our candidates are coming from. Sometimes it is nice to not start out with a tour because a lot of individuals have to arrive at 9 o'clock If I know of some individuals who have a longer commute, I will push their interview back further so that they have time to get here. And I'm just looking now to
Run
see.
tour lunch.
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend if we could do a lunch tour. It just
Okay,
gives a little flexibility for,
I'm good with that.
okay. So that would be at 11 o'clock. Is that when the tour would be?
That's
Yep.
what I was suggesting, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And then at noon would be lunch? Okay.
And then start interviews at 12:30. That first
Pushing it.
candidate's only gonna get a half an hour for lunch. The rest of them can have, an hour and a half. That's gonna be the difference.
True, it's the first one.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brush your teeth and no food left, yeah.
Is that what you wanna do?
I think that's a good schedule. Others, thoughts on that?
That's fine.
And what I will do, I'll put together a tentative schedule and share it with the council, as well as you lose any candidates or anything like that. We can always tweak it and modify it, but we'll stick kind of with that general schedule that you've outlined here.
So now that we've approved the candidates, it's now public going forward, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Speak about some specifics about some candidates.
Just about the candidates who are being invited in for
Yes.
the interview.
Let me make sure.
And so I'm just going to go through here and just identify where those candidates are coming from.
That's why I'm asking.
Okay, yes, we're thinking along the same lines then.
There is number 9 one of our candidates?
Yes.
So I think number 9's out of state.
Correct.
Is that, do we do a WebEx or how does that handle? Do we Zoom for that candidate or is the expectation?
You certainly can. The one thing that I always tell councils is, would you be comfortable hiring somebody that you don't see face to face?
I'd rather.
If you're willing to allow them to do a remote interview, just, I guess, have to ask that question.
I would prefer face to face, but I just didn't know how that worked.
Mhm, mhm.
The trend, that's just on them to get here. Okay.
Yep.
Fair enough. Good.
And in some cases, cities do offer a reimbursement for expenses, if people are flying, they have lodging. But that's entirely up to the council. There's no right or wrong in that situation.
Okay.
So,
We'll discuss that further at some time on what we want to do.
it would be nice if we could maybe have that discussion now and make that determination, because that will probably be a question from some candidates and it may impact their decision as to whether or not they interview.
Okay, so we're good on the schedule, right?
Correct. Yep.
Everyone is comfortable with the schedule
Mhm.
as far as we know now?
So it's basically morning staff will interview. There will be a tour of some sorts. I don't know if we've nailed that down, if it's going to be the fire hall and the water.
Yeah, we'll nail down the route.
And staff will work with the
Okay.
council. Staff will work with the council on what we think it should be.
Okay. I'll
And
just
get your
leave that.
input on it too. Maybe next council meeting, we'll come up with something and we'll present you with what we think should be, and then we'll go from there, and you can tell us if a yay or nay it.
If we
And
need a quick work session.
Okay,
Next one, that'd be fine too, to throw it
Okay.
out there, and we'll get what we want
You
to
okay with
show
that?
them.
okay. Open with the tour.
Does it
Yeah.
just drive by or does it go into each facility, whichever? But, we'll nail that down.
So that'll be from 11 to 12. Then at 12, we'll have lunch, a box lunch.
We'll get lunch, yep.
And then at 12:30, the council will start their interviews, and then there'll be a deliberation. Once those are completed, the input from staff will be provided to the council in advance of that deliberation. and a decision will be made. That evening, a decision will be made as to who the council would like to be the finalist. And it'll be basically an authorization for myself to work with if there's a negotiating committee or with the mayor, whoever the council decides, to kind of set the parameters and then start negotiating with the selected finalist.
And if they have more than one finalist, say there's two that they decide they like, they can always call those two back in again for another interview, right?
Yeah.
So if you have two that you end up, or, you know, a couple of people that you think, oh gosh, I don't know which one, you can call them back in for another interview, if you choose to do that. That's a choice you can do.
Candidate number one, who interviews at 12:30, will have to stick around to the very end.
No, you'd probably do it on another
We'll bring it
day,
back a different day.
a different day. Yeah, a
that
different
makes
day,
sense. That
yeah.
makes sense. Yeah, if we get to the point where we just can't.
Or there's two that you really like and you want to just bring them back in because you got to try to decide. Yeah,
Okay.
you can do that at another date.
So as council, we would be doing like pack a lunch or a dinner because
How about we?
I might be, I don't want to get hangry.
Yeah, we'll get food at
Yeah.
6:30.
We'll have more food.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you can just, and then
I
you can
just
take-
need to
you'll
make
wanna-
sure I eat.
You probably want to take a break. You probably want to take a break after you do all
Yeah.
the interviews.
Do you have any dietary needs? that we can
No,
take care of?
but I'm saying I wanna, no, I just want to make sure because I would be very hungry if I hadn't eaten anything
You're gonna
since
be
12:30.
No, we'll make sure
And
we
I
get
want to make
something.
good decisions, not on an empty stomach.
We don't want you making decisions on an empty stomach. We'll be sure that you have something.
I
Now,
was like, if I pack a dinner.
just as a scenario, if I can't make all the interviews, do I pick my like top two that I want to speak to?
Why don't you wait and see if you can make it or can't make it?
Well,
Try to
I
make
just
it.
got a response saying there's two people gone. I can't make it.
You want to do a different date?
No, not if it works for everybody else and they've set it aside.
No, I mean, we've had this date set.
Well, that's why I'm saying, could I, you know,
21st?
just do
make
the
it
top
next day.
two?
Make it the next day? Just do it the 21st or the 19th. Do it the
They're,
same week.
they're gone the whole
Oh,
week.
you can't.
No.
Okay.
We'll have to talk about that then and figure out how we want to do that.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah, we've had the
I mean, you're
date.
gonna
Cause I could squeeze one in at the 12:30 and then I could squeeze two more in after work, but I'm not gonna be able to interview two people.
Could you get off for 2.5 hours and join staff?
I can join staff, I could join staff at 11 o'clock.
10 and 11.
Yeah, no.
Did you call in sick?
Nope, who's gonna open? There's already two people gone.
Whoops, are we? Oh.
Do I have to come down there?
Yeah, right?
We can sort mail.
That'll all be done by the time the interviews are.
Yeah, I
Well, then-
suppose you're gonna have to.
Figure it
Couldn't they
out.
do a group interview?
What you wanna do.
Just do them all at one time?
No.
We haven't done a group interview. I don't know how that would work with.
You ask them one question each.
But that wouldn't be very, but that's not very
No.
fair because then, no,
That's
We,
weird.
we try and be uniform and consistent with
right,
all so everybody has an equal opportunity
opportunity.
to respond to questions, and it
Maybe I could meet with individual council members as they come out of the interviews and get their ideas
Maybe
and
you're,
work off of that.
you're gonna have to rely maybe on the city council. at
Well,
the end
that's,
of the
that's
day.
what I'm saying
Yeah.
is if I speak to each one individually as they come out of the meetings with the individuals and maybe get a really good idea of their thoughts and feelings.
Is it video? Is it streamed?
No,
No, they're private.
I don't think you do interviews. Well, I don't know, because they're finalists. Some people have done, some communities have done it. I know they have.
We'll just have to.
Figure it out.
We'll talk about it
Yep.
as it gets closer, I guess, and figure out how we want to handle it, but
Because unless I'd get a council consensus or opinions, I don't know that I'd feel comfortable voting on a candidate if I haven't done the interviews.
right. And then you might have to rely on the other 4 council members.
Right.
Yeah,
It's a catch 22.
What else to
It's,
say? Yeah. And then out of town for some traveling.
Yep, so we've got, one individual coming from Wichita, Kansas.
Which is what, 8-hour drive?
So,
A little bit more than that.
About, okay.
10, 12, maybe.
500 miles.
But we don't know if this candidate would be flying or driving. We don't know.
yeah, I do not know.
And we don't know if he'd accept either,
Right.
accept the phone call and, accept the interview even
I
yet.
think the person should be here. I don't think they would have applied had they known they didn't have to be here. I think if we went through it and needed this candidate to come back, that I can see the city picking up, but initially,
Yeah, agreed.
I agree.
I think they need two hotels, 2 nights. I would be willing to maybe pick up a night of one of the hotels, or maybe the hotel and they pay for the gas. Maybe the hotels.
I would say for the initial interview, every candidate has to get there on their own expense.
own.
And if we do what Luann was talking about, we can't decide between two and that, then we would, if they have to come back for a second interview, we would consider reimbursing expenses.
That sounds fair.
see what they say. If they come back something different, let us know. We'll discuss it.
Okay, yeah, no, that's,
Is that typical?
Uh,
I'm kind of looking to you for a little of that guidance.
yeah, some do reimburse, I'm thinking of some of the recent ones. I mean, they do specifically send them to certain, lodging accommodations, but this is for, you've got an individual coming from Marshall, from Fairfax, from Cokato, Burnsville,
Right.
and St. Cloud, and then just one individual from Wichita. So, most of them are within the state here, and
I'm really only concerned with the one from Wichita.
yeah. So I think you're being reasonable. I don't think there's any prescribed standard to what you should or should not do.
See what he says.
Let's see what the candidate,
We moving on.
okay. Anything more you need?
Just if there are any questions or anything I can answer now as we kind of jump into the next phase and working towards the July 20th interviews. Any questions that staff or anybody has for me?
Nope.
Process.
I just had one, and when I initially met with you, like one of the requirements that was on top of my list were all the candidates willing to relocate to mayor.
And that's
Reside in mayor.
That's not a question that we're allowed to, we can't require unless, for instance, it was an emergency personnel who had a certain response time that was expected. We're not allowed to require them to indicate residency. I mean,
It's deemed to be unconstitutional. You
Yeah.
can't do it, it's discrimination. Because if the person can't afford to live here, or why, you can't make people move to a community. You can't make them do that. It's just not, in fact, I think there's laws, I think it's been taken to court and been found unconstitutional by communities, because they used to do that and they don't do it anymore at all.
the one thing that the city could do, I believe, is the city can offer a moving
Relocation.
allowance, relocation allowance, and then it could be if relocating to the city of Mare. You could do that, but
I almost think it's better they don't live in the city.
And I didn't ever live in the city, but I had the community was my top priority.
Right.
I mean, so just because you don't live here doesn't mean that you don't have ethics and morals and you do what's right for the community. Sometimes it's easier not to live in the community than to live in the community, because I lived in a community I worked in, and people would say, how come you parked your cars like that? Your shades are up, you're this, you're that. You were under a microscope that I really didn't care to be under. So, and it's small, right. Yep.
job either.
No,
So you
no.
try to go have dinner and people are stopping and talking to
Mhm.
you and.
Like my,
Go for a walk on the
You just
street,
can't get away
go to
from
the
it.
park, yep. Right, right.
Answer your,
Not really, but
okay.
I have a different philosophy than what was mentioned, but that's all right.
I'm assuming our
But it's-
one candidate would
Yeah.
If he would,
The one probably.
would have to relocate someplace.
Anything more for Pat?
Okay, thanks much for your time,
Thank
and,
you.
Thank you.
yeah, I'll be sure to keep in touch with you if we have any that withdraw, or if I hear anything unexpected.
I'll try and
My
figure
calls.
out my natural disaster of a day to
One step
Yeah.
closer.
You're looking kind of sick.
Thank you.
Thank you.
get
Thank
some
you,
sort of
Pat.
interview in.
And the resumes need to go back down to Luann. Everyone has them on email. We just don't want them to get out. So, let's-
Keep these and we can use them for staff now. Have them to look at.
Yeah, I think there's no
Staff can have them to look at. I don't have to
there's no
recreate.
background yet.
Once we get the okay from that,
Okay.
right?
With that, let's move to 6A2, approval of resolution 627, 2022-19.
Mr. Mayor and council members, Planning Commission met on June 14th, 2022 to review the current plans for the proposed picnic shelter and restrooms for Old Schoolhouse Park. Planning Commission is recommending approval of the site plan. Park and Recreation Commission met on June 21st, 2022 to review the current plans for the proposed picnic shelter and restrooms for Old School Park. And the Park and Rec Commission is also recommending approval of the site plan. Attached is the resolution 627-2022-19 approving the site plan for the new picnic shelter and restrooms in Old Schoolhouse Park. Staff's asking for approval.
All right, any questions for Luann on that?
That's exciting.
I'll look for a motion to approve the site plan for the new picnic shelter and restrooms for Old Schoolhouse Park, resolution 6-27-2022-19.
So moved.
Second,
We have a motion, we have
I
a
put
second. Any
equals
further
in there.
discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0.
Mr. Mayor, council members, now with the approval of the site plan for the picnic shelter and park shelter and restrooms for Old Schoolhouse Park, staff is recommending that the city council authorize bidding of the park shelter and restrooms with a due date and time of 2 p.m. Tuesday, July 19th, 2022. Council would award bids at the city council meeting on Monday, July 25th, and the proposed completion date of May 1st, 2023. So staff is asking for authorization to bid.
All right, any questions for Luann? I'll look for a motion to authorize to advertise for bids for the park shelter and restrooms in Old Schoolhouse Park.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second,
We have a motion, and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. I'll take 6B1, approval to apply for rural fire grant project.
Andy.
Mr. Mayor, Council, Fire Department is looking to apply for a grant through the DNR for purchase of some dual certified wildland gear. It would be, with dual certified, it would be good for grass fires and stuff like that. Also, we could use it on car accidents and other things like that where we would not be, need to wear our structural gear. So it is a lot lighter gear and stuff. So in calls where it's hot out and stuff like that, where we don't need our structural gear, we'd be able to use this and stuff. So the amount we'd be looking for is 28 sets at $599.11 each, totaling $16,775.08. So we'd like to apply for a grant to the DNR for that. The DNR, great. DNR grants statistically, when we have gotten it, depending on what we've applied, usually get a few $1,000s or something like that for.
With the DNR grants, there's usually a city match, and that's 10%. So the city's portion of this would be $1,677 if the grant is awarded to the city. And again, like the fire chief said, the city's been pretty successful in getting these grants also. So we're looking for approval to be able to apply for it.
That's great. Any questions for the chief? Then I'll look for a motion to authorize the chief to file for the grant for $16,775.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? So Andy, will all these, do we have to start maybe looking at different, start looking at what
I
that might be?
believe with this, I think it's still with what we've got will be feasible.
You don't think it'll be too crowded? with
It'll be a
jumpsuits,
little bit, I think we maybe have to get a couple other just hangers for inside of our lockers.
Okay. Start looking into it. If you think we're gonna need to start expanding those, let's try to get ahead of that and start planning for that if we think that this grant will come through. But thank you for finding that and applying for it. Any other discussion? I'm sorry, I thought I had one more. Oh, just one little, if you could go back, you're missing an R on one of the mayors. One more page,
Here?
right there.
It's missing enough. Okay.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0.
It's probably there, just probably really light on the copy.
And thank you, Andy. And that'll take us to Public Works, one approval replacement of air conditioner units.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, got a few items tonight. First off is a motion approving the installation of 2 rooftop units at the Mayor Community Center. They're the big 2 units up on top of the gymnasium. Over the past few weeks, city staff has been receiving quotes on the installation of 2 new RTUs at the Mayor Community Center. Over the past couple of years, the units have become very unreliable, resulting in increased service costs and downtime during community center events. The units were installed in 2004, reached their projected life expectancies. Currently, the units are blowing fuses and service techs are kind of stumped as to why this keeps happening. Things are just getting worn out, tougher to turn, that type of thing. Staff is proposing to have Owens Company Incorporated to replace the 2 rooftop units in the amount of $53,900. The units will be more efficient and also more reliable. I believe there's actually a energy grant too that goes with them. So as far as funding, we spent a lot of our community center funds as of late because of the remodel and everything. We do have $10,000 currently in capital outlay, and we also have money in the 435 fund that we could use to purchase these units. Then Luann can help me out on it. If we budget money for them this year to replenish that fund, so these units won't fail on us during events and that sort of thing. So let's go ahead and get it taken care of. Is our recommendation.
So back in March or April, you did a transfer of funds and closed the community center at capital outlay fund. In that was $46,000 some odd dollars. Of that $46,000, what's been spent now has been the asbestos removal, the new floor and the carpeting. It's going to probably take up most of that 46. I was thinking that we had 46, but we don't. So the only thing that's left is really the 10,000 in the 2022 budget. And then there is money in the 435 fund. If you looked on the back of my, which I can go back to, on the back of my staff report, I've provided you with the fund balances so that you could see those fund balances from every month. And there is 457,000. There's probably only 440 or 410,000 in there, 457,000 in there now, 133. I was thinking of something else. So you would have the money to pay for the units and then just budget for them for next year and put the money back into the 435 fund is what Kyle and I had talked about. I mean, because they are heating units too. They are heating and air conditioning. So it's not like,
They're the big ones too. They're
right.
And there has been past community center money in capital outlay that hasn't been spent.
Right.
Last year, we had $15,000 in capital outlay.
Right, and I could probably do an audit. There's probably more money in that 435 fund that came from the community center capital outlay that was transferred in or whatever too, but yeah. Money that hasn't been spent.
Can't have pipes freeze and who knows what.
Well, you can't not have heat in the building if you have an
Right.
event.
It is more cost effective, or both units are the same edge, and it's cost effective because they do got to rent a crane to get the units down, put the units in. So
And I agree with that. I mean, I think we have to do it because this is a community. People are using it as a community building.
Right.
I think maybe in the future we could try to budget, but for that, I mean.
More.
Over the last couple of years, it's been unreliable, so we've known this has been going on. I think.
kind of mainly started last summer, right? You know, it was
Budgeted
started.
But
So we thought we'd get a little further, but
I
then
think we need to do it. I think we need to do it just because of the building. But
So in 5 years, you'll have 50,000, you'll have enough to do something, right? Which and you may want to consider then reopening that capital outlay, community center capital outlay fund, so it doesn't get thrown into the 435 fund and nobody knows what the money's for. I don't know, you'll have to decide, that'll have to be a decision that maybe you and your new administrator has a better idea of how to keep track of it, but it's, then you know exactly what you have by the fund, so, yeah,
that was a 435. Like you said.
yes.
All right, any questions for Kyle? Now look for a motion to approve Owens Company bid in the amount of $53,900 to replace 2 rooftop units coming out of the 435 fund.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
A motion, a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. We'll go ahead.
On the request for city council, it says meeting date of May 27th. Should that be June 22nd?
Yeah, of course. We're just seeing if you guys read your packets. Just seeing if you read the
It's on
packets.
both of them.
Well, of course.
thanks for calling me out. Nikki. At least you didn't use the laser pointer.
I just wanted to make
Andy
sure.
got the laser.
Approval of the mini split system at the wastewater treatment facility.
All right. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, over the past few weeks, city staff has received quotes on the installation of a new mini split system for the office building at the Mayor wastewater treatment facility. The electrical room currently has a single mini split 2-ton system, and the office area currently has a wall air conditioning unit. The 2-ton unit from the original unit from 2004, it's no longer operational. They no longer make the parts, so it's completely obsolete. And the unit is needed to keep VFDs in the main control room cool from overheating. The main control panel is also in that space as well. Updating the unit to a 3-ton system will do a better job at keeping the room cool in the hot summer months. Currently, the 2-ton system does struggle to keep up. The office area, like I said, currently has just a through the wall air conditioner unit, which the units are, as of late, are just garbage. They just don't seem to last. We've had a lot of trouble with them. So we are also proposing to put a mini split in the office as well. They are much more efficient than the window units and more reliable, have a longer life expectancy, easier to maintain because you actually can maintain them and fix them and work on them, and more efficient overall as well. So total cost to do all this work is $12,700, and it is in the capital budgeted for this year because we knew it was going to be needed. And there's $70,000 in capital outlay for the wastewater treatment facility.
Any questions for Kyle? Not, I'll look for a motion to approve Owens Company's bid for $12,700 to upgrade the wastewater facility mini split installation unit.
Motion. Oh,
We have a motion
second.
and a second from Councilmember Halt. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. And the 7th Street Northeast road repairs.
All right. Over the past couple of years, the road conditions along 7th Street Northeast have significantly deteriorated due to the pour base under the bituminous. Where this past spring, frost significantly worsened the road conditions, resulting in much needed reconstruct in the also the other 2 areas closer to the east of the closer to the roundabout. Staff was proposing to have 3 sections of 7th Street Northeast excavated down about a foot, filled in with 8 inches of class 5, compacted class 5, followed by 4 inches of bituminous and 2 separate lifts. That'll make a nice strong road that'll hopefully last much longer than it did. This will help correct the issue and give the city longer life expectancy out of the roadway. Staff was proposing to have WM Mueller and Sons conduct the work in the amount of $60,530. And we have money for this in the roads capital outlay. It'll get split between that, and it'll also get split between the street improvement fund.
How much was there in roads capital outlay?
36,000.
So we're gonna be short a little bit though. Remember you and I talked about that? Because there's only 244 left in the street improvement fund. And we thought it was
Both correct, wasn't there, Luann?
well,
That's
240,
what my note said.
244, 558, but the 2012 street projects are 212 of that 244.
212, I thought it was 208.
Well, even at 210, will make the difference, that's 34. And then where's the others?
Well, we have also 15,000 in roads and repairs for streets, so that remainder can come from there pretty easily.
So that gets us to 49, Kyle. I thought we talked about this, that we were short, you and I, when we talked. And help me remember. Because that only gets us to 49,000 of the 60. So we're like 10 short.
There's 244 in street improvement right now.
Right.
Correct.
So 210 off of 244 is 34, right?
Let's get so 244 minus the 210,
Right,
that gives us the 34.
right.
We got 36,000 in roads,
Okay.
capital outlay.
Oh, okay. So that gets us to the
That
60.
gets us
Yeah,
to
okay. I
A
didn't,
little over the 60.
I don't know if we didn't talk about the roads capital outlay. I don't remember having that discussion, but I probably.
I got my notes.
Well, no, I believe you. I'm questioning me. I'm not questioning you. I just wanted to be sure that
But on
I,
top of that, we still got a cushion in streets repairs. and
okay,
maintenance.
yep, okay,
That'll cover the cost.
okay. I just thought we were short for somehow that. I had that in my mind, but
I think we'll be all right.
yep, I think so. Okay, yep. And this is gonna be kind of like a change order because they're the ones doing the mill and overlay in town. So it's giving us a better deal then too, because they're already here. So it's actually less money now by having them do it when they're in the city than if we did it next year. If we put it off for a year, it's gonna be more, just because they'll have to mobilize and come to town.
What happens in the areas in between where we're digging down, putting in a new base of foot? What happens?
So currently the areas,
Start soon?
yeah, I mean, there's potential. I mean, currently those areas are still intact and are fine, but it could, and hopefully the worst areas have shown themselves. And once we correct the bad areas, hopefully in a perfect world, that's it.
Won't push something somewhere
Right.
else or do
Yeah.
something.
And once they excavate down, they'll get rid of, because I mean, this was a gravel road before, right? So frost boils and everything come out of gravel roads. So they got clay boils underneath and we just covered it up with bituminous when we put it down. So now they're going to dig down a little bit, pack in some decent gravel, then lay blacktop on top of that. It should correct the
So
issue.
you don't think there's a need just to put a Band-Aid on it right now and then look at doing the entire road by digging? I mean, we think
Regrading the
from an
whole road?
engineering standpoint, have we looked at that?
Long term, yes, that'd probably be the way to do it. Yes, if we just did and fix these issues and Band-Aid them, I mean, it'll be another 5 years. It'll be just as bad as they were, if not sooner. And we have been kind of Band-Aiding the area furthest to the west for a while now. So it's kind of to the point. I mean, in the long run, yeah, it'd be better just to dig up the whole street and redo the whole street. But how
Seems
cost
to
effective?
doing all, digging down a foot and redoing the whole base, it seems like we should be looking at.
Because yeah, it'll
in the
just be
future, just doing it all, but
it'll just be patches and patches and patches until and eventually we'll get the whole road.
so I assume it's mainly water that's doing that freezing and thawing and freezing and thawing, right?
Yep,
So
it's pushing up.
if we fix the one section, does that mean that water that would have been there is now pushed to the sections we're not doing, and that's gonna get worse. Now, will it change anything under there that we don't? I guess we don't know. We don't know.
You don't know what you don't know exactly. It'll correct the issue in the current area, but is there potential it could move to another area? Sure, but it's the base. So right now it's showing that we got a good base under a good amount of the road, but these areas it doesn't have good base. So unless we were to install a tile line and the blanket and the fabric and all that stuff like we did when we did street reconstruction, which is probably what is needed and what,
I'm just struggling with doing this big of a, and just in sections. I'm worried about it.
I mean, we could just remove the blacktop and then, but it'll be like that again
Next year.
next year. It could potentially be next year.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think we just have to have a bigger discussion, but I think this needs to be addressed now. And
If you've been in the area,
You can hold us off for 5 years and we got another street project, and if it's bad again, maybe we can tie it in with that. And, just redo the whole street at that,
fix it for now and see what happens.
right?
The other thing is that the city engineer is coming in. We're gonna have a work session after the next council meeting because he can't be at the second one. He has to be at the first one. We've had requests again on 62nd Street to annex one of the lots in. They want to be hooked to our sewer and water. So then you're gonna be doing a street project on that little section of land that's not in the city anyway, which abuts this. Do you do it all at once and do it next year? That's and I don't know how soon does William Mueller and Sons need an answer. Yeah. So just to put that on your radar too, that's been a request again to hook up sewer to that empty lot. And so I don't know
I
what.
mean,
you
we
want
can
to do.
have them just,
Think we can get 5 years?
Who knows?
I mean, I know it's honest,
It'd
you
be
can't
cheap.
honestly tell me
it
that,
will
but-
keep the price lower if we just replace the blacktop.
Right.
If we dig up the blacktop, just lay to the thickness. I'm not sure what the thickness is over there right now, 3 inches, 3.5.
But if we have a wet spring next year, then it could just be it could ruin the new tar and you're right back in the same place and you probably pay $30,000 just to put tar down. Right,
probably to redo that whole road, we're talking like 3-4 times this amount.
Right.
at
We can
least.
Fix these 3 spots,
Sure, double. Yeah, it'll be.
hold it off a
Sure,
few
double.
years.
And even, this is just the bait, and we're not laying, like if we did the street, we dug down like a foot, 2 feet, laid fabric, rock, compact, and then you do your blacktop.
And I'm not saying we're wasting money, but we've done a really, really good job on all our roads, maintaining them. And we have one road that's kind of this mismatch of things that we might not be making the best.
I bet a good majority.
Does that
of the
make
roads
sense?
are-
Like most of our roads, we are on top of. And
Plan would be if if this is good and it survives next spring, this is to be on schedule. It just gets chip sealed right away next year too, which would hopefully.
Yeah, but I think you bring up a good point with that other road. If that got annexed in, we'd be doing that, and then might as well just do it all at
The whole
once.
project.
But we're still,
But I mean, if you could
We still
wait to
need
make,
to
if you
fix
could wait
something
to,
now.
wait to make your decision after the 11th, but I'm not sure we can, because Mueller and Sons are coming to town. I didn't know they were coming that soon. I'm just thinking then you could have had that, have that discussion, and if that's what.
I'm not sure if they'll be starting there, but that was part of the quote. They wanted to do this work while they're in town.
Right.
the thing is, we're gonna have other street projects.
How old is this current road?
True.
When was the roundabout put in? 2015. It was the year I got married. So 2015. That road was put in.
But that road was done sooner than that. Part of that road was done with the Fieldstone
At
development.
the end
Yes.
over here,
Yeah.
Larry, that was done when Fieldstone was put in. So that has made it. So there might be actually, I don't know, fairly decent base. It may just be the blacktop. You don't know. We don't know until we dig it up.
Right, because they graded it and they tarred it. That's all they did. They didn't do any,
I remember when they did the roundabout, they graded it and tarred it, and I talked to the Muellers, and
but
they said it was soft when they were tarring it. So
the Fieldstone where they added that on,
Oh,
I'm talking
okay.
about. They just
Sure.
there wasn't much dirt work done on that, under that tar before that tar was put down.
Right.
But it stayed.
Right. Long-term goal or hopeful goal is this solves the issue, and then in a couple of years, or 10 years down the road, when we do a 2-inch mill and overlay, you just mill this whole road down 1 inch, 2 inches, then you put a nice coat of
Yeah, just as soon do that right now. But. All right, any other questions for Kyle? And I'll look for a motion to approve Mueller and Sons to fix row for $60,500. I'm sorry, $6,530.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Aye. Motion carries 3-1. So with that, we'll go to council reports. Councilman,
Over there at the meeting tonight about the planning commission and the
perfect. Thank you. Councilmember Held,
Nothing to report on.
Councilmember McNeely.
No, just have EDA tomorrow.
Get back together. It's been a
Mhm.
while.
Yep.
And I have nothing to report on. So with that, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Make the motion.
Second.
A motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. We are adjourned. We will, unless someone needs a break quick, we will jump right into the work session.
I know my section.
Do you have,
Oh, do you want an agenda? Yeah. I'll get you one. I gotta do that.
Thanks, Pat.
On your computer.
I like to make notes.
Hey, I'm sorry, Nikki. Are you hungry?
No. No. What time are you leaving tomorrow?
All right, let's.
Yep.
And I know they
They did. Yep. They even by your house there, that was a discussion. The developer was so nitpicky. Actually, we wanted that road wider. But he didn't want it.
No,
I forget, that was when it was our homes. I forget the name of that guy. He was a smooth talker. But yeah, they didn't widen the ditches or slope the ditches nice. I wish the ditches were sloped better. What's that? Oh, yeah.
What he bought that land for?
Yep,
Oh my God.
Yep.
Hey,
yep.
All right, with that, we will call the workshop meeting to order. And we can start with the Mayor Wetland Project.
Mr. Mayor, could I add one item to the agenda?
Sure.
I would like to add, was approached by Hollywood Township to buy some of the sheriff's time. I just would like to get some direction from you on that before I bring the contract to the council for approval and before we do our 2023 budget.
All right, we will add that after the Public Works expansion. All right, Mayor Wetland Project.
What do you want up, Mark?
So, yeah, I don't know what you're gonna
So-
want up there. So we invited Mark to come talk to kind of give us an overview of the project for some of the newer council members and some of the older ones who have been here. Just kind of what happens now. We're finished the project. What does this mean? The banking of credits and how do we do it? And how do we, so you could just kind of give us a little overview of what's next. Maybe a little history if you want to go through some of the bullet points, that's fine.
If you're interested in history, I can blow through it pretty quickly.
Brief.
Assume what you're most interested in is what do we have now?
I think
What's it
that's
worth?
mainly it, right?
No,
You know, it's
that
been
makes
a long
sense.
project. We've completed it. It's certified with the state. Now what?
Right. And I'm not sure what everyone's background on this project is. We started it in 2012. Wetland delineation was completed. The project location is shown there. It was an existing wetland and Bolton Mink did a delineation on it. There's the wetlands that were there at the time we started the project. This was part of a larger project that the city was looking at as a stormwater plan. And so, we thought, well, is there a way to address the city stormwater needs and at the same time, maybe gain some additional revenue through the wetland banking program? And the wetland banking program is a program through the state and federal government where wetlands are created or restored, credit is generated. And then if somebody fills a wetland somewhere else, they can come in and purchase some of that credit from the city. And that's what they use as their mitigation or their replacement. So anyway, that's the delineation. If you want to just kind of keep scrolling through. So here was the original kind of overview plan. There was an existing wetland. There's drain tile through there coming from the east, coming from the southeast, coming under those existing tile had to be incapacitated and a outlet structure at the north end had to be installed. The idea was that two ways to get this credit. It was already a wetland, but partially drained, so the hydrology was going to be restored, holding water in there, and the vegetation was going to be upgraded to a native wetland plant community. And that's how the credit would be generated. Parts of the application, there was a conservation easement that was required. The project included some city land, and then to the east, it included a portion of it was owned by a private individual, I think Joel Finkemeyer. And that land, I think, had to be an easement acquired from him, and then he also became a participant in the project. If you want to just keep scrolling. The way these credits are identified is that the wetland plant communities that are there in the deeper area, it's what we call a shallow marsh. The browner fringe around it is a wet prairie. And then there's the pinkish is an upland buffer. And all of those generate different amounts of credits. And so we have to identify them and monitor. Another part of the project is after the wetland is restored, we have to monitor it for 5 years or maybe more. This figure shows the monitoring plan, which the blue were photo reference points so we can visually document what's happening. The red squares show sample plots where we go in and do an intensive monitoring of the vegetation. And then the green, we had to install what are called data loggers, or they're shallow monitoring wells, so we can document the depth of the water levels and whether or not the required water levels have been restored. So that's the monitoring, part of the monitoring plan.
5 years from now, or has that already begun?
5 years from when the restoration project starts. So we're on year 5.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Here's the notice of decision approving it. The city, as the local governmental unit for the Wetland Conservation Act, made the decision that this project was worthy and qualified for a certain number of credits. The council made the decision in this resolution. The document before it is called the notice of decision. That's the formal approval for the project under the Minnesota Wetland Conservation Act. And then there's also a federal program that would also have to approve the project and the credits. The Army Corps of Engineers oversees that. That's what this one is. There's a document called the Mitigation Banking Instrument, and that has to be all signed off on and approved. The table here shows total project area in the bottom, 21.2 acres. Projected credits, 8.8833 credits. The ribbits is their monitoring, credit monitoring. And then 15% of the credits, the reason they show that is to get the 15, you can get the 15% credits right away with number one. If you look underneath the table, there's an approval of the as-built plan showing it's been approved, constructed according to approval. There's vegetation has been established, and the conservation has been easement has been recorded. This is where we are right now. Got about, I think, 1.4 credits in the bank that have been approved and deposited. There's a little, just so you can see kind of what our monitoring project looks like. We do, again, for 5 years. You can scroll through it. These are a couple of the figures we include. Here's what it looks like after it was restored. The hydrology is now more typical of what we call a shallow marsh. And then we document the water levels and the extent of inundation. Bottom left, kind of what it was in 2020. And then these are, again, the plant communities that we monitor, and we document the plant species that are there and the percent of natives, and that's required to prove that the project is successful. This is the state's dashboard. I included that on your, and you'll get the handout. It's the website is there if you're curious. But if you go down to, we're in, across the top, Bank Service Area 7, Major Watershed, South Fork Crow, Carver County, City's account 1763. My name is on there as the account manager. The amount of credits that are currently in the bank are 0.5376 of shallow marsh, 0.8724 of wet prairie. So again, you got any questions, let me know. Wetlands people tend to speak wetland language.
Credits, we should get more credits.
So, right, so the 15% is what you get when it has been constructed according to plan and so on. Then with monitoring, you achieve what are called performance standards, and based on the achievement of those performance standards, then additional credits get deposited in the bank. And so that's up to 8.88, right.
How long does that take? How long of a process is that?
Well, we're in a little bit of a kind of an unusual situation in that in order to do the vegetation management, we had to maintain it at a drier level than it will be in its permanent form. And so the conversation is we're having with the regulators is how much credit can we get? Now, the permanent outlet structure was just implemented this year. So are we going to have to monitor it another year or two to get more of those credits? The vegetation, the plant community has developed very successfully. We're really happy with that, but we've got to see what the water looks like now that we're using the permanent outlet structure. There's very specific performance standards that have to be achieved to get the credits, and you have to document that they have been accomplished. Otherwise, you may have to monitor more or do some corrections. But anyway, this is the final potential 8.8833. If you want to flip it, I don't want to totally bore you, but just so you have some idea, these are the release of credits. The bottom kind of tells you what you need to do to get those credits. 15% with the as-built, another 20% after hydrology has been met for 2 or more consecutive growing seasons, 20 additional credits for interim vegetation performance standards, 15 additional credits for interim vegetation performance standards have been met, another 15. So anyway, it just kind of goes there. Maybe it could all be achieved in 1 or 2 years if everything works well. I think the vegetation is there. We just have to get them to agree with the hydrology aspect of it.
I did email this to you. Mark did send this over to me. I'd asked him for it last week, and then he was out of the office, so he couldn't get it to us before. So he did send it off to me today. So it has been emailed to you.
I saw my email, just haven't gone through it.
Okay.
Okay,
So you do have it.
thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
And so then after the performance standards have been achieved, then the next form, you have to apply to deposit the credits. This is a transaction form to deposit the credits, provide all the information, submit it to the state, and then if everything checks out, then they put those credits in the bank. And then people can buy them, right? And so these next forms, and now here the city's sitting on their credits. And the way this works is the state maintains that website that I showed you before. Somebody that's looking for wetland credits can go to the website, can see what's available, say, okay, the city mayor's got some credits that would work for our project. Let's check with them and see how much money they want for their credits. It's all, the city decides how much they want to ask.
We just set that price.
You set that price, and it's kind of a little bit of a game. You want to get as much as you can, but you want to sell. And so, we are very involved on the private side in doing lots of wetland projects. So we kind of know about, where the credits are being sold and how much they're being sold for.
Do we tap into you at that point then? And
I'd be happy. I mean, I'm on the list right now as the, contact person for the city. I think that would be that'd be valuable for you to have that insight. We do probably more wetland banking projects or wetland permitting projects than anybody. So I think we really are on top of what they're selling for right now. So then somebody comes in and they say, okay, city, we want to buy your credits. This is a sample of a purchase agreement that the state has provided and says, I want to buy this many credits of this type. There's some additional fees that go along with that that typically are paid by the buyer. There's a easement stewardship fee, there's a withdrawal fee, kind of do all the math on that. And then there's the grand total. And then, okay, so then this is the purchase agreement. And then there is one more form. After this is a credit withdrawal form. And then somebody, after they enter into the purchase agreements, they get approval for a fill permit somewhere, they come back to the city and they get the local governmental unit in the area that they're doing their permit to sign off on it. And then they go, if you go to the next form, they come back to the city, they give you your money. And then the city signs and says, city as the account holder signs it and says, we've been paid and we have the credits.
Some of these credits are sold in fractions too.
Yeah, they're sold in square feet.
Oh, it is.
Actually, they're sold in 0.4 places after the decimal, so 0.4437. That's the way that they do that. Typical prices that we're seeing now, you know, are going to be about $3 a square foot or $140,000 per acre of credits. So it's, you know, compared to what it was at the time this project started. Granted, it was many years ago, so that's part of what's happened. But there's just more of a demand. Both the state and federal government have really pushed to go to bank credits as replacement, as opposed to people constructing their own wetlands on their project site. That just doesn't work as well. So there's been a lot more demand. And it's just a real struggle for the banking program to keep up with the demand. So, you know, prices go up. So yeah, $3. I don't know what the highest is. It may be $3.40 per square foot. Again, pushing $150,000 an acre. That would more likely be in Hennepin County. You know, there's kind of depends on where you are, but still there's no reason. I don't think that the city shouldn't be able to get, you know, close to $3 a square foot or $130,000 per acre for their credits.
130,000. And how many acres? Is
Well,
there?
there'll be about 9. Yeah.
So one reason why we did invest in this project, because it cost us money to do the project. And then we also paid, Lingemeyer already for his portion, correct?
Right.
So I remember when we approved this, we knew that we would get money for these credits to give us that money back on what we've already spent. I remember somebody had already approached us to like pre-buy them at a discount and we had said no at the time.
Right.
I remember the county, we wanted the county, I think, to give us 30,000 an acre for them at the time, and the county didn't want to even give us 30 as we were constructing them, just so that we had some cash up front to be able to pay for some of the costs. Well, look what we're going to get now instead. Oh my goodness. It was like, I remember that. I just do it. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure my memory's pretty good.
I thought they approached us with this lower number.
With 30,000 an acre, but they were actually worth more than that at that time too, but they just kind of lowballed us on it. And then because we approached them and said, if we construct these, hoping that we could sell them to get some cash so that we didn't have to upfront all the money for the project. And we knew we weren't going to make any money on it, but we were going to break even. That's what that was our goal. It was part of our stormwater plan. So I think you're going to do more than break even on it, obviously.
Yeah, and just, you know, at the risk of stating the obvious, you get 9 credits, you know, you don't usually sell 9 credits in one chunk, right? So you may sell a half an acre and then a third of an acre, and then the economy slows down and then you sit on the credits for a while. We had a bank project we did in Hollywood that it was probably 20 credits and they sat for a long time. And he started out, I think he was getting 50 cents, and we just wrapped up the end of his credits last year. And I think he got like $2.80. So, you know, it just really went up. The prices really went up. So, but I think, you know, I think you should do well. We still have to get it worked out with the Army Corps of Engineers. They have not signed off on it yet. And credits are a lot more valuable when the state program and the federal program both have approved the credits for deposit. So if you know, the table that I showed earlier, it says credits approved state, yes, but not the federal government. So Kyle, who's monitoring and kind of handling this project for the company, just met with the Army Corps of Engineers, I think last week on Wednesday. That table there, go
Down, the one I
yeah,
just
I'm
had?
sorry. Yeah, go back
This
down,
one?
stop. So program approval, that column, so it's some are say Fed and state approved, under the mayor's bank, it just says state approved. We wanted to, they wanted to hold off on the deposit until the federal government approved. I said, let's just get them there so we know, and as people are looking, and they'll check in with the city and see, and maybe somebody just needs state approved credits. They don't need the federal approval. And so then, you'd be able to sell them to those people, but it just kind of gets you on the board. So as people are looking around, they know the mayor bank is,
Going forward.
that's what we're really pushing for right now, is to get the Corps to approve some portion. So it'll say state and federal. I think we'll at least get the 15%. And, we'll have to work with them on the issue of the outlet structure and how much monitoring they're going to require before they'll give us more of the credit. But
I don't know if there's a way, Luann, since you're here, to like kind of put a little bit of a history together for our new city administrator, just so that this is one of those projects that's been working for a long time, and our goal was not necessarily to make money, but to at least recoup what we invested. And we knew this was going to take time and solve our water problem. So it was like kind of a unique situation, but I think it might be,
This packet might be good for that person.
Right. They might have a lot of, yeah, that's.
but
what
like
I
go
think.
back and like, what did we pay for that project? I don't know if we can, I'm pretty
I can
sure,
look.
dig it up.
Try.
And like what we just paid Vinkemeyer. It would just be nice for me even to see.
Yep.
I don't remember. I can.
Yep, no, it wasn't a, cheap project. It's not just a matter of plugging the water and letting it, getting your
I
credits.
just knew we would probably get our money back.
Yeah. Yep, I think it was something in the neighborhood of $100,000 for the vegetation management part of it,
Right.
Because we had to pay for that company to.
prairie
restore it.
restoration, and they did it for
Right.
they worked
And
on
you-
it for 5 years.
And then you have Mark and you have all the engineering and you have, yeah, you probably are into it for half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it'll just show, we needed to spend the money on the infrastructure. So it's not like it was a waste, but then now we can get some of that money back
Right.
by selling these
Mhm.
credits. But it would just be nice to see it in one kind of like picture.
Let me see what I can do. You got a better return on your investment than you would have on a CD with your money, that's for sure.
Well, I think the original plan was, let's go to that wetland and just dig it down and use that to gain the additional storage. But that wouldn't generate any wetland credits. So the idea was, well, you're not going to have a deep hole, you're going to spread it out over 20 acres, but then you can get the wetland credits. And that was kind of a win, I think, a win-win.
And I think it looks nice.
It still is,
Yeah, I do. And we have annual monitoring reports that we have to submit, and the vegetation is developed really well. And we've been really happy with that, because they had to spend a couple years to try to kill off all the nasty stuff that was in there. But it just takes work to get these things where they need to be to generate all the credits that you want to try to get out of them. So,
Any other questions?
any other questions?
So with that, this is very helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
For myself, who's been involved since the beginning,
Mhm.
I appreciate you coming in.
Yeah.
Now we at least have an understanding where we're going and what's next. and-
Yep.
and where we'll be. So when they all get deposited, let's say in 2 years, at most in there,
Mhm.
do we try to go out and try to market it at all? Or do we just let it sit there and people will come to that
Yeah.
website and they'll contact us?
Yeah.
That's typically,
That's it. We've never had to go out and look for people to buy the credits. Every once in a while, Bowser, the state will go out with a RFP and they'll want to buy a large amount of credits at one time. But then, they're not going to pay what you would be getting if you were selling them to private developers, right? Coming from Chanhassen or whatever. And
we can pick and choose. We
Yep.
can do what we want.
yep,
set our price.
right. Set your price.
That's good, and that'll be helpful, Nikki, to what you're saying, when we get an idea of where we're at
Right.
financially and how it all is.
Yeah.
What do we want, what do we think we want to get for them too?
Well, and I
That's
think,
the minimal.
yeah, and I think that's a conversation maybe that, the council ought to think about a little bit as to how to handle this, because somebody comes in, they want to buy some credits. It wouldn't work very well to have to wait to go to the council and say, all right, somebody wants to buy the credits. How much money do you want for your credits? I think there should be like some set price with some, margin plus or minus that staff can make a decision on. And we can provide, input on what the credit prices are doing right now. And I think that would be a better way to handle it.
Yeah. But just-
I mean, the
you
credits
were
are
part of the
available right
project
now
from
if
the
somebody
beginning.
came in and asked for them. So
So,
it'd probably be something to think about sooner rather than later, just so that.
Yeah.
And there's no missed opportunities.
Or maybe you do a wetlands committee of 2 council members that could meet and give them the power to make the decision about the offer or the price for the project. Because I don't know if you want, as a staff person, if you want to be making that decision, I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
the next person would. I don't know if I would want to do that.
We set a minimum.
Yep.
But then it's based on the volume amount too.
But you set a minimum and you set a minimum this year and they don't sell for 2 years, then
Yeah,
they
we'd
have you
have to- we'd
updated
have
the
to
minimum?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'd
you'd
have
have
to
to
update
Or
that.
maybe it
but-
becomes something on the fee schedule,
But I like the idea of.
a committee.
Because for me, it might change by how much they're buying too.
Oh, yeah,
3
absolutely.
acres versus a quarter acre
Yep.
might be, maybe
Yep.
go a little cheaper to get
No,
rid
that's very common.
of a bigger amount.
Yeah.
So
I kind of like the idea, I like the city council being involved in the decision. It's your project and I do, and I get where you want to kind of be able to do it quicker, but yet sometimes government just can't.
Sure. No, I appreciate that. We do, the city of Blaine has a wetland bank and we buy, credits from them. But it is a frustration because they have an environmental committee that has to authorize the sale and the price.
Mhm.
And sometimes that takes a while. So, people that are out shopping for credits, they want to get an answer. They want to get a purchase agreement signed up and they want to submit their, applications. So,
I just think this project is something that would be kind of a top pass on to the new administrator to make sure they understand it fully.
for sure.
Especially since we have a fairly new council too, that they weren't part of the decision process. And, not that it can't change, but there was logic to the money spent.
Perfect. Well, thank you.
okay.
I appreciate it.
Yep.
It really helps.
Thank
Yep,
you.
yep,
Good to
thank-
see you again.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
Thank you for everything on the entire project.
You're welcome. All right.
Thanks.
All
Bye,
right.
Mark.
Public Works expansion.
So Kyle and I were talking about, we know the city council wants to do an expansion on the Public Works building. We'd like to be able to start the dialogue with the architect, or at least bring that back to city council and get your approval to be able to at least start looking at maybe drawing some plans and beginning that expansion. And again, then we can also start budgeting for next year if it's something you're gonna do, so we know. So that's kind of what we're looking for, is it okay if we put it on the council agenda, ask to hire an architect, and we'll work with Eric. Yep,
This shelter.
yep, on the expansion. So we'll have him put something together for a contract for next council meeting
I'm
and,
fine with that. Start.
okay?
Get that together. We've gone over a lot of it. We've
Okay.
been talking about this for a couple of years now. I'm fine with moving forward.
We started budgeting already, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
2 years now we have.
I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head. Kyle might know.
Last year, we budgeted 25 grand, supposed to be budgeted $100,000. Lynn and I are trying to find where that $100,000 is, so we for sure have 25 grand.
We're looking.
We're on a roll.
It's somewhere. Let's back up.
What was
It's somewhere.
that?
We can get a wall.
We're looking for 100,000. What? No, we have been budgeting, in other words.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is kind of the first step we wanted to kind of.
Yeah, I'm fine.
We want to
with
know if we
that.
can bring a contract forward with Eric and begin the
Just
process.
make sure we're set where, and I think we are, just based on what we've gone over in Public Works and looking through it. I just don't want to have to revisit and redo it. So, but I think we have a good idea of what you need. So I'm fine with that.
Okay, well, that'll be on the next council agenda then.
Sounds good. Sheriff's contract.
Yeah, and again, I have the sheriff's contract for 2023, and it's something that we do for budgeting where we put it within the budget. But I was approached today by a member of the Hollywood Township called me, and they're looking to buy just a couple hours a week, or an hour a week, or 2 or 14 hours a year from a local community. They approached the sheriff's department, and evidently the sheriff's department doesn't want to encourage them to reach out to the communities around them and see if someone was willing to give up some of their hours. So I would have to address that through the contract. If that's something you think you want to do, I'll put it on the next council agenda for action. If you don't even think you want to even share any hours, then I won't even bring it up. But I just want to know if it's something you want to discuss at a council meeting.
Where is Hollywood Township?
It's adjacent to us here.
I'm perfectly
I'm
fine.
good with it.
An
Okay.
hour or two a month, or even an hour a week.
Okay.
A small amount I would be okay with.
Okay.
Find out if they're talking the remainder of this year or
Okay, yes.
starting next
Yep.
year and all that stuff, but I don't have a
It only
problem.
benefits us because if it's adjacent to us,
They're still
it's-
around,
they're
yeah.
still around and
But they have instances where they need a sheriff's deputy to be called, and then I suppose they have to pay the higher rate. So if they contract, then they don't have to. And they can get some sheriff's department coverage
I'm perfectly fine.
because the
Okay.
sheriff's department can only do it if it's a felony.
or something. Yeah,
Yeah, so they,
right. I will try to get him to nail him down on the hours and what he
Yeah.
wants, and then I'll come back to you and get you to approve.
We need to know how many.
Approve it.
so
Yep.
we can figure out-
And for what, if it's for this year or next year,
Right,
and then, yeah, we'll go forward from there. Okay, I'll bring it back to the next council meeting then.
all right, perfect, thank you.
Yep.
All right, with that, we are adjourned.
Okay.
Thanks, Andy.
Push the square.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's all I have to do.
Just, it's time. Okay. Let's ask, oh, yeah.
I mean, I've never done them in the past, because we have staff meetings all the time. You know, just sort of informally chat your colleagues.
Like I said, if I can go with the top three, I'd be satisfied.
Both stores.
And just base.
Yeah, Creamery's right here. I know that's a Fish Street and.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
so,
Right.
There was weeds. I know there was weeds over there.
I'll be in.
Usually they do a really good job spraying it.
Yeah.
but-
Well, I'm assuming they're gonna send out like a schedule. To sign up. All right, kids, I'll see you in a couple weeks.
When you going to Arizona?
Wow.